Welcome to the Straight Talk on Fleet podcast with Erin Gilchrist. Each week, Erin will be breaking down fleet management, trying to cut through the noise and get down to the real issues safety and operations leaders are struggling with every day. The goal will be to get to the bottom of how leaders can break down these silos of information and accelerate change management, how to use real-time, accurate data to drive massive efficiencies across fleet-focused business processes, and to elevate people's careers with emerging best practices. Now it's time for the Straight Talk on Fleet.
Hello again, Fleet community. Super excited to be back. We are 36 episodes in, which is so hard to believe, so weird that I'm saying that. Just being a year into the Straight Talk on Fleet. So, I think everyone knows, but if you don't, on this podcast, we like to talk about sort of everything fleet management, risk management, safety, operations, and I get to do that because I was an enterprise fleet manager for a long time with lots of experience. So this is sort of my way to give back to the fleet community and share my knowledge and experience and gained knowledge and experience from all of you that are listening. So today, super stoked. We have a guest with us, Matt Glaser. Am I saying that right, Matt?
You're saying it right. Yeah, right on. That's
Awesome.
That's impressive because the 50-50 shot, most people don't. So
Excellent. So Matt is the VP of Product Management at Car IQ. So first off, welcome, Matt. Thank you so much for joining us today.
awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Erin. Excited to be here and talk about some of the advances here in fleet payments and really the whole kind of vehicle digital payment space.
Yeah, it's a great topic. I can't wait to talk through some of these challenges because I know our audience will be able to relate to that. So at Car IQ, we are partners with Car IQ here at IntelliShift. And what they do is they've created a payment solution. It's developed specifically for vehicles and for fleets. So their platform enables folks like us, with vehicles to autonomously initiate, validate, complete payments for services like fuel and parking and tolls and a lot more. So we're going to dig into that here in a few, but that's a little bit about Car IQ. So I probably didn't do Matt any justice here. I'm going to let him introduce himself, talk a little bit about, how he got into the industry, and then we'll get rolling on the content.
Perfect. Yeah, no, that's a great start for the intro. So I've been at Car IQ for 4 years now, the VP of Product Management. My background is in automotive. So I come from working at Ford for 6 years in vehicle systems and vehicle networks, a few different automotive suppliers, and also an EV automotive company as well. So I've been around the block when it comes to vehicle data and what it represents, what it means. So I was really excited to come over to Car IQ once I saw what they were doing to really innovate the payment space with fleets utilizing vehicle data as the core of that. There's a lot of different ways that sort of the legacy fleet payment space is utilizing vehicle data right now. But I think really what we're doing here at Car IQ with how vehicle data is the beginning of how we're looking at payments rather than sort of a vestigial attachment of data at the back end. It really creates that differentiation. So excited to talk to you guys about kind of what we're doing and how it's different. Like Erin said, there's Car IQ is a completely digital fleet payment platform. So, we have an app. That's how you're going to make all your payments and do everything. And there's no plastic fleet cards or card management that needs to be made. So I know that really excites Erin.
It does. And I think that's a great segue. Thank you for that much better intro and a little bit of info about kind of how you got here. Your experience is going to lend to a great conversation today. But it's a great segue into some of the things that I think about when I was running a large enterprise fleet. There were just so many challenges that myself, my team, our operations leaders, our drivers faced out there as it relates to payment solutions, just overall our fuel management program, our maintenance management program. So there's so many different things that the drivers have to do on a day-to-day basis. So I think the good news here is there are some great solutions out there. I mean, we at IntelliShift know we partner with a lot of folks in the fleet space, whether it be, for fuel cards or for maintenance data. I think the key word here is data, right? And we are trying to help eliminate some of these challenges that risk and safety and fleet and ops leaders face every day, so they can focus on their more strategic goals and initiatives. So I'm going to walk us through some of these challenges from my perspective that people like me were facing every day and that are facing every day today. Just in the areas, like I said, fuel management, payment solutions with physical cards, security issues, fraud, and just overall challenges in efficiency for drivers. Because I think our goal as fleet leaders is we want that driver to be able to get in the cab and first off, just drive, right? That's one huge challenge. The second biggest challenge that we face is just all the things that they have to do relative to fleet operations, things that the fleet department, right, needs them to do. And then their vocational work. So whether they're spraying lawns or carpet cleaning or HVAC or electrical or construction, all these areas that we work in, we want them to be able to focus on that vocation work. But then at the same time, we really need them to do certain things to make sure that everything goes smoothly, that we get the data that we need to properly report, and then to drive compliance, efficiency, and safety inside of our orgs. So I'm going to wrap down some of these challenges, and Matt, you'll let me know if I've missed anything, but there's just so many. So I like to start with fraud and misuse, just because we do have challenges with unauthorized purchases, misuse of fuel cards, drivers sharing PIN data. Sometimes PINs are associated with driver IDs. That's a big problem. That data collides, and also when they share it, it can cause some real problems and obviously open up organizations for fraud. The lack of visibility. Level 3 data is amazing when you get it. Not always provided to us as fleet leaders in real time. So that's always a struggle to get, to track those expenses promptly, accurately. And I think this idea of real time is possible, and it's what we expect as fleet leaders, but we can't always get it with all of the systems and tools that we're using today. There's that manual data entry piece. So we have drivers out there that are entering odometers into the pump, maybe additional data at the beginning of their day with digital inspections or just paper inspections. Yep, that still happens. And I start getting excited and get ahead of myself when I think about manual data entry and what this digital entry and record keeping and controls and payment solutions could offer us as fleet leaders to make the manual processes go away and then improve overall efficiency. On that note, I think having sort of limited controls in today's environment, being able to customize spending limits and transaction numbers and types by driver, by vehicle type, all the things that we want to do every day. The reporting piece is huge, not just for internal financial reporting, but also reporting that larger fleets have to make out to report on usage and mileage in their fleets. Of course, there's non-fuel purchases. Sometimes those aren't allowed at all. And then other times we just want to be able to accurately report on them. I think there's the integration piece. We talk about this a lot on my podcast, Matt, because this idea of having a single place for data to live and breathe, and then for it to tell us the stories every morning when we wake up, to allow us to see things that are going on in our fleets, whether it's fuel or overdue maintenance transactions, or we have missed inspections that could lead to catastrophic failures in our vehicles. So this integration of systems, software, data can be very complex. And So I think with solutions like digital payments, this gets a lot easier. So again, getting ahead of myself, but and some other things that I think about for challenges that fleet managers face is vehicle compatibility, different devices in our assets that are transmitting data. I think driver compliance is one of the biggest things. I mean, fundamentally, as fleet leaders, driver compliance is everything, right? It's ensuring that our drivers are designated to the right vehicle and they can get fuel at the right time, at the right place, at the right price. That the current environment makes it a little bit more challenging to drive those compliance metrics, especially with larger fleets. We talked a little bit about accounting challenges, just getting the right data at the right time, and then being able to identify discrepancies and issues that come about through all types of ways that we input data, mostly manually. And then there's those security concerns, which I'm not going to elaborate today. I think there's that could be a podcast in and of itself, right? And we talk about skimming at the pumps, and there's just so many things going on in the security arena as it relates to payments. And then I think one big hot topic for me is driver ID, right? So I dream about this world where the driver, when they get up in the morning and they open up whatever their mobile resource management tool is, likely a cell phone, could be a tablet, whatever they're using, there would be that instant, like the driver is paired to the vehicle, is paired to the device, and they start out their day with the organization or even their week, depending on how they operate. And the organization having that visibility into what drivers are in what vehicle, for what purpose, for how long, what are they doing, fitness of the vehicle, the fitness of the driver for every single day that they go out and operate. So when you and I have talked before, that's the thing that I get most excited about, is just this place where when that reconciliation can happen right at the beginning of a workday or a shift for a driver, that opens up so many possibilities. I mean, think about an organization that wants to allow you to see the driver coming your way. So, you think about that Uber-like experience where the customer, the ultimate customer, gets to see the driver in his vehicle, his or her vehicle, coming to their home or maybe their place of business or whatever type of service they're providing, a business getting a delivery, knowing when it's coming, being able to see it on its way. But all of that only happens seamlessly when we can match the asset to the driver right at the get. So again, lots of challenges we could get into today. That's just 10 or so that I could think of that relate to our conversation today. So big list. So I know that our listeners out there can relate to probably all of these things at one point or another. So when I think about digital payments, a world of opportunity sort of opens in my mind to solve for some of these challenges. So let's dig in here, Matt. I think the first question is, what the heck is a digital payment? What do we mean by that? So I'll have an expert answer that for us.
Yeah, no, it's a great first question, because the term digital is thrown around there more than probably any of the buzzwords out there today. But really, when we say a digital payment, we mean a payment where there's no physical plastic card present, where all of the data that is contained within that physical plastic card is transmitted to the merchant digitally. So it's not being exposed to the driver. It's being securely transmitted to that point of sale. So, you're not swiping anything in a card reader that could have a skimming device on it. So the transfer of that data in general is much more secure. And of course, there's nothing to lose. So there's kind of two ways that we look at digital payments at Car IQ and how we're implementing them in the payment space. the first and the most innovative, I think, is really the cloud-based payment. So that's, you open up your app, you're at a fuel pump, and you say get fuel, you tell it what pump number you're at, and it automatically unlocks that pump. So basically what's happening in the back end is, we're sending that payment information securely to that merchant. The merchant's getting it, processing it, and opening up that pump for the drivers. And they don't have to see any of it. It's very simplistic. The other way to do it is using tap to pay. So this is kind of the latest and greatest with all the phones that we have now, with either Apple Pay or Google Pay or Samsung Pay.
So convenient. I love it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where sometimes you forget it's there,
Mhm.
and then you do it again at any of the merchants you go to, and you're like, man, that was so easy. I almost forget that it's a possibility. But yeah, essentially you're just taking your phone out, or you can do it on a physical card. They do have tap to pay, but the control is there when you're using your phone, and you're basically just putting it up to the little near field chip reader that's on whatever the merchant you're at, and it's unlocking the pump that way. So again, it's securely transmitting that payment information, the card number, et cetera, all that stuff over to that point of sale. So that's what we mean when we say digital payments.
It's wild. Like, you think about carrying cash right now. It's
Yeah.
just, I need a pocket for my phone, and that's kind of it, right? It's just, I can almost go anywhere now with just myself, my phone, my car keys, and that's about it, right?
Yeah, I don't know how some of these restaurants and stuff stay open with their kind of cash only stuff right now, because I never have cash on me, and if I need to, it's a real problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So, good explanation. I think that is, sounds pretty easy, right? It sounds like, wow, this is now, and we'll talk about how close we are later. But thinking about moving from physical to digital, it opens up a whole new ecosystem of products. And I touched on that a little bit when I talked about the challenges, but kind of walk us through this from your perspective. What are some of those things that we can access today, can expect to, going forward here?
Yeah, so I mean, once you've gone digital, right, the first thing is you've now removed the plastic card. So there's all kinds of benefits and enhancements there that we can talk about when we talk about kind of how this benefits fleets. But that's kind of what you're saying, is there's no longer a plastic card. Everything starts with a data point and gets initiated by some digital device. So the first thing that it opens up in the ecosystem is now you can directly integrate to these merchants, via the cloud, right? So via an app, you can now pay for fuel, you can pay for parking, you can pay for maintenance, you can pay for EV charging. I mean, the EV charging merchants, they kind of started digitally and almost are working their way back and saying, oh, we should maybe add some actual point of sales to some of our charging stations. But
To
they
that
were
point,
kind of the
though,
pioneers.
there's limitations, right? We know that, I think about, oh gosh, it's kind of scary. It's that range anxiety that we hear about when drivers are in an EV and they're like, am I going to make it to my next, stop? Is, gosh, I don't have a physical card. That probably feels a little weird. So we'll talk more, I think, in a little bit about how possible that really is. But yeah, I think just this idea too, just, wow, my parking meter is about to run out. I know that when I'm in downtown Columbus, I can just from my phone add time to my meter.
Yeah. Oh, I
As
love
one-
that. You're sitting inside wherever you're at and you get the little notification saying, hey, your time's about to expire, compared to the old method where you're feeding the meter. You have to physically go out there, find some quarters that you didn't have. I mean, it's
the
a whole
cash that
different
we don't
ballgame.
carry anymore, remember?
Yeah. Good luck doing that.
Yeah.
So,
sure.
I mean, that's the first thing that you're opening up is now you have this sort of direct integration to these merchants. And that means that you can securely send the payment information over to them. And then you can get a receipt instantaneously too, right? You're getting a digital receipt with all the information about that payment. So now you've established sort of that core piece that you kind of have this direct connection. You're controlling it via some interface, basically usually an app. And now that you've got an app that's starting and controlling that payment, well, now you can do all kinds of other stuff with data because you have a mechanism to build off of. So that's where really, the IntelliShifts of the world come in with all of their fleet data. Well, Car IQ integrates with that fleet data. And so we're using that data that's coming from the vehicles as part of the core of our payment process. So now you've created control. And that's everything that we're talking about, I think, with maybe 60, 70, 80% of all the challenges you listed. Those are challenges based off the desire for fleets to create control and the edge cases and limitations of the current products that out there, that the controls that they have. So really, when you're adding vehicle data into this, now you've created a lot more possibilities for kind of how that control can happen. So essentially, when I think about when you add fleet data into the payment authorization process, what I mean there is if someone goes into their app and they say, I'm at this station, I want to get fuel. Well, how do we know that they're actually there? So we're worried about, is the vehicle there? Because you're not really concerned if you're controlling a driver's spend at the root of the problem. You want to make sure that you're controlling the vehicle spend and that the fuel is going into the vehicle. So if you take the root problem down to its actual root, is the vehicle there at that fuel station? Yes. Okay, then I'm going to actually unlock that fuel station. So there's a whole stack up of, you need to trust the data coming in, you need to trust the vehicle, you need to make sure that there's a payment account attached to that vehicle. And sort of that's the secret sauce of the Car IQ digital payment platform, that now that payments are digital, we can add a whole bunch of extra control using vehicle data that wasn't there before.
Yeah, absolutely. When I think about like the fraud part of this, there's so many interesting things that I've encountered in my time as a fleet leader. Like, the vehicle was there, but another vehicle was there, and the fuel was actually being pumped into a different vehicle and not the fleet vehicle. What's beautiful about the integration of all the data is that vehicle can tell me I'm at 8% fuel capacity. And while that transaction's taking place, if we're not seeing the capacity in that tank start to rise, that's when we can identify in more real time, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because you've got that direct connection to the pump, which is going to give you a receipt the second that fuel pump is rung up, and then you're going to have that vehicle data coming in the second the car started up. So then you've got your kind of vehicle validation that'll come out afterwards. So you do still have it on the back end. First, you're going to reduce the fuel on the front end because the vehicle has to be there. So now you've reduced your fraud window to a very, very tight scope. You also have the driver who has to have logged into the app. So he knows that, hey, I've got a login that's attached to my phone number, and the vehicle I selected is going to be, I have an attached receipt to it.
Prepared, right?
They're going to be very concerned about, now that they know that all this data and everything's tied together, if they pull up their car and fill up their buddy's car, it's going to be relatively evident to them. They're going to see in their app, the receipt's going to come right through, and there's going to be some concern there for sure.
Well, the alert could even be visible, like, whoa, there's a flag. Yeah. It allows the driver to communicate with operations, or operations to communicate with the driver. Again, in that more real-time scenario, which is always what we want, is to address things as they're happening.
Yeah, exactly. And essentially you're moving from a world of trying to reconcile using two different systems, a payment system and a telematics data system, rather than having them combined in a single source that is utilizing the controls off of that, and always starting a transaction with a vehicle in mind, so that reconciliation isn't there. But another cool thing that you can also do with the whole, now that you're in the digital space, is, well, the second that vehicle goes to the pump, we know how much fuel is in that vehicle before it even tries to transact. So now we can dynamically change that pre-auth. So you can reduce your fraud window even more. So the vehicle's got to be there. Oh, and it only needs 50% of fuel. We know how big the tank is from the vehicle data. Well, let's only pre-auth for $60 or $40, depending on what part of the nation and how expensive your fuel is.
Yeah,
Um,
and just thinking about like when I think about this day in the life of a driver, which I've spent a lot of times thinking about, lost sleep over it, you can imagine, is this idea when a driver just gets up in the morning, they open up their device that we've given them, we're telling them what needs to happen today. So you have 6 deliveries, bread deliveries today. And in between, we know you need an oil change. You're going to need fuel. Based on where we routed you today, you're going to need fuel halfway through your day. And being able to integrate all this data and be very prescriptive. Again, it goes back to allowing the cab to be a just drive zone for safety purposes because we've thought of everything. And solutions like this can help us predict and schedule maintenance stops, the payments for those, the authorizations for those, as well as, add in digital inspections and everything just, got a lot better. But then even saying, I want them to go to these fuel stations because of en route or time or price or whatever, the type of fuel that they're going to be using, being able to prescribe and plan that driver's day better and better as we go using data and integration like this. I think fleet leaders would rest easier knowing that this could be more planned and taking out some of those opportunities for drivers going off route or making decisions that are either financially harmful to the organization or could be physically harmful to the drivers. Being able to say, we don't want you to get fuel at this station. It's next to an intersection where the accident rate is 3 times where the station is down the street. I mean, there's just so many things to think about in the data ecosystem out there to help us be safer and more efficient. So again, I get excited thinking about it.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and so just to kind of wrap up where does the digital ecosystem take us? The other cool things like parking, for instance, the vehicle's still there at a parking lot. If it, starts to get to its session time running out, well, from a connected payments perspective, we know the vehicle GPS location. We know when that parking is going to run out because it was initiated from the app anyway, and it's in our ecosystem. And so we can auto extend that parking session. And so now you're avoiding, getting tickets for going over time. You've got a whole new sort of solution now where anybody who needs a digitally issued payment credential can get that. So we're seeing some things in the gig economy world where there's companies that are moving vehicles from one place to the other for different fleet purposes and dealer purposes, et cetera. And they're saying, well, I've got a gig economy worker who uses my app who's moving these vehicles. They need to fill that vehicle up before they drop it off. How can we get them a payment method or a way to control their spend rather than just, taking a picture of a receipt, hoping it went to that vehicle? So that's another way that now everything's digital. You can digitally issue them a credential. It doesn't have to be a plastic card. Don't have to ship it to them and anything. It's just an app that they see. They're automatically onboarded and they pull up to a pump and hit get fuel. You look at the vehicle data, make sure it's there. And you've got that control. So it's opening up, completely different new ecosystems of vehicle-based payments altogether.
I mean, again, that's just, I think about all those challenges and great options. Again, just opens up a whole world of opportunity for safety and efficiency. But again, we've talked a lot about how this would help fleets. But let's just dig in a little deeper. We've talked about, eliminating the plastic card, lost cards, swapping cards, sharing pins, entering odometers, all these things. I think there's that administration piece too, right? Fleets have fleet administrators who are spending ridiculous amounts of time doing all this back end work associated with physical cards. So I don't know, I'm sure you're hearing from some of your customers about, maybe some happy stories around reducing, time and inefficiencies. What have we missed in terms of how this type of solution helps fleets?
Yeah. So when I think about kind of the stack up of the most important things, because there's a lot that you start to get into, but the first thing is going to be fraud, right? I mean, from the market studies I've seen, 2 to 5% of all fuel card spend is fraud, and that's the main concern is trying to control that, right? And so the usage of vehicle data as the authorizing factor for that payment is the most massive reduction you can make in reducing that fraud. Ensuring that the vehicle was there and then right after validating the fuel went in there. I mean, there's no tighter control that you're going to get than that, other than if there was some way to, force feed fuel into a tank via some digital way, which doesn't exist yet. The other big thing, really, like you said, administrative time. And there's a lot of different ways you're going to save via administrative time when it comes to moving to these digital app-based payments. First of all, issuing the cards, right? Every time you get a new asset, well, you got to see how many cards you've got already. Maybe you need to shift one around. If you do need to shift one around, well, guess what? You need to go into your system. You need to take that plastic card, assign it to a new asset. Every single time that there is a manual human-based action involved, there's a potential for error. And in each one of those scenarios, there will be error. The percentage of that error is dependent on the action, but there is going to be an error that now has to be looked at. So with the system that's completely digital, you can take the data and the assets from your telematics. So everything you've already got, each one of these assets already has a device plugged in a telematics unit. That's coming in to the digital payment-based system, and you can have an automated onboarding flow. Hey, we see a new vehicle, a new device. Would you like to add that to your CarIQ payment fleet? Yes. Okay. It's instantly issued a payment credential, and it's instantly available in your app now. You don't have to order a new card. You don't have to assign that card. You don't have to get driver pins set up, get it to a specific driver. All of that is sort of managed, in the cloud for you. And of course, one of the biggest pieces that I've heard as far as heartache goes is really the step of when a driver needs to enter all of the pins and odometer at the fuel pump. Again, that's for control, right? You're trying to make sure that the driver is who he says he is. You're trying to make sure that the odometer matches up so you can do some tracking as far as, are they driving the right amount versus how much fuel is putting in there, et cetera. And then managing the calls that you're going to get from, hey, I forgot my pin, I need to reset it, all that stuff. The driver, all they need to do is log into their app. The login is based on their phone number with a one-time password, so they can't forget it. It's always going to come to them, and they're logged in. And then they just need to select the vehicle they're driving and hit unlock. If the vehicle's not there, it's not going to let them unlock it. So you've reduced all of these problems. The odometer is automatically going to get attached to the receipt information that's coming in anyway, because we're connected to the odometer value as well. So you've just kind of like massively reduced all of those administrative problems kind of overnight.
And that's like administration for the driver. I mean, I just remember, and I know this is still true, I'd have fleet administrators spending time answering the phone and an email inbox full of issues every day. And 60 to 70% of the issues coming in were all related to payments, mostly fuel. I ran a large fleet that drove, upwards of 200 million miles a year. So you can imagine the kind of activity that was happening on a day-to-day basis and a month-to-month basis with thousands of transactions and drivers and cards and pins. So the time that the fleet administrator is spending just fielding all of that was is for so many fleets just it's outrageous. You think about all the things you could have those fleet administrators do versus that a lot more strategic, in nature, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's none of it is value at time, right? It's all
Right.
time that is wasted based off of a system that isn't optimized for the solution or the problem it's trying to solve.
Right. And I think that we could dig into almost every aspect of fleet management, whether it be inspections, maintenance, fuel, life cycle. All this data and these solutions play really well together. And what I always say, I think I've probably said this on every single podcast I've ever recorded, is when you stack your tech with safety in mind, everything else falls into place. So when you think about having, telematics, AI video dash cams, apps and scorecards and dashboards and things for your drivers and for your operational leaders out in the field, adding something like this then is a lot easier because you're ready, right? So on that note, sounds like almost too good to be true. So how close are we to this being a reality for fleets? So, talk on things like coverage, infrastructure, timing, data integration, cost, ecosystem. Just talk us through like where we are today. And then, so our listeners can say, hey, gosh, this could be possible for me in a certain period of time based on, of course, how they manage their fleets, what type of assets they use, what type of business they have. But yeah, talk about how close we are. What's happening today?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, I mean, obviously, with any new technology, coverage is an incremental and a rollout that needs to happen, and it's all based off the infrastructure. So, when you talk about what infrastructure is really required for this kind of a product, there's two main things that are the new key enablers that create the innovation here. One is the vehicle data, so getting the telematics data. The great thing there is that is widespread. I mean, any fleet that is of any size and has the control that we're looking for definitely has that data. So for us to get that data is great, and that's why we've partnered with IntelliShift as well to kind of be able to easily access that data. At no added cost to the fleet, which is perfect for us. So that piece is very readily there. The other big piece for this is the merchant connection. So as you can expect, integrating to a large fuel provider through the cloud is no small feat. That is a sizable integration. The great news is, from the CarIQ perspective, we have made a lot of progress as far as our merchant acceptance. Right now we've got Shell, Sunoco, Sinclair, Come and Go already connected. And by the end of Q3, we've got over 10 new fuel merchants that we're also going to be adding here that are very sizable.
I mean, that's huge when you think about national fleets operating in like every zip code. I think there were times that I remember drivers, they'd go to a pump where they'd have to go inside to pay still. I mean, we know that exists.
Yep.
Here in the US, there's sort of a wide variety of scenarios that a driver faces day to day as it relates to fueling. Not as much in the maintenance network, but certainly for fuel. So it's good to hear that coverage is increasing. But I'm guessing there's still a lot of challenge in that area, right?
Yeah, and it's one of those things that is just a progression over time. So depending on when you listen to this, I'll have an even larger list for you, in 3 months, right? So it's one of those things where the great news is the providers we have, and within a few months, this larger list as well. I mean, you're talking 40,000 plus stations nationwide. So we have nationwide coverage right now. And so that has sort of been our big story. I think as an organization is this ramp up and getting to that merchant coverage. So I think that's one of the things we're most excited about right now is to be able to offer such wide coverage for such a novel product that is using a completely different, method of fully digital acceptance. So it's pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah,
And
so
then
closer than what I was even thinking. You think if your vehicle can transmit data and your driver can utilize an app, you're there, right?
yeah,
Just about,
you
right?
got it. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
the sign up process is the onboarding process is relatively simplistic of just obviously a credit application and then get us hooked up with your vehicle data, share the credentials, and you're good to go. As far as the rest of the ecosystem, right? We've talked about at CarQ, we're not just focused around fuel. Obviously, fuel is number one priority for
Right.
all fleets, but we've launched tolls as well, so you can sign up with a tolling program. So the whole goal is really one account for all your vehicle spend, right? We're going to hit up all these different merchant categories, so you've just got one credit account to pay on. You don't have to manage a whole bunch of different avenues here. So next we've got coming up is parking, maintenance, EV charging. So we've all got stuff in the pipeline right now being developed for that. That should be coming out, if not by the end of this year, by early next year. So we've got a
Just
lot.
super exciting.
Yeah.
Tolls in and of itself, I swear I could do, I would put some people to sleep, but if you're a fleet manager, we can talk about toll programs all day long and how challenging they are. And it all comes down to, the right transponder in the asset, who's driving, where are they going, how do we make sure there's money there so when they roll through the toll that we're not getting a ticket on the back end, mismatched, transponder and vehicle information. I feel like as things progress in this space, as you've described it, the fleet manager's job gets a lot easier. That
Yeah,
always,
I mean, and you hit it on the head with tolls, right? Because most of the tolling programs are prepaid, so and it's a different program that the manager now has to do. So when it's all one credit program, they don't have to manage. CarIQ takes care of the upfront stuff. We just bill them as the tolls come in. And a really nice thing too about like transponder mismatches is, well, we're connected to the vehicle data. So if there's ever a dispute on, hey, I don't think this is my toll or something like that, very easy to reconcile because we can see the vehicle data as it moves through that tolling gantry and really verify that and kind of come to a much swifter conclusion than a typical program.
Yeah, I feel like we should probably get together again here in a few months and say, okay, where are we now? What's going on? I feel like this is going to be a fast moving, quick uptake, right? In our industry. At least we hope so. I hope for the sanity of my friends and colleagues out there in the fleet industry, but also just how far this can go, right? It touches every aspect of fleet management. So really fun stuff. But yeah, we'll have to do this again in the not too distant future, considering
Absolutely.
how quickly things are moving, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Matt, I've loved talking to you today. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. It's been really great having you with us, for sure.
Yeah, thanks so much, Erin. It's been awesome being on this, and I'm happy to kind of share the innovation here because, as you can tell, I'm pretty excited about how different it is. And for me, being a total tech nerd, I mean, the technology is just cool to me. So that's what gets me excited about it.
Yeah, likewise. I think fleet managers, we have to wear so many hats, but tech nerd is one for sure. So we're right there with you. But to our fleet community, thanks for joining us today. We hope that this gets you guys excited about what's possible now and what's coming down the pike as it relates to the challenges that we've highlighted today and how this digital data and payment space kind of helps to alleviate some of our big headaches and challenges. And if you've enjoyed today's content, certainly like, comment, subscribe to Straight Talk on Fleet, wherever you find your favorite content. But as we like to say on STOF, until next time, keep it real, keep it safe for fleet's sake. So thanks again, Matt, and thanks guys for being with us.